Before we dive into today's video, I need your support, folks. We've noticed a dip in the channel's momentum, and hitting that subscribe button is one of the easiest ways to help us keep going. It's free, takes a second, and ensures we can continue delivering the content you love. Your support is everything. Let's grow this community together. Thank you so much. Now, let's get into the story. Hey everyone, I've been lurking in these forums for a while, thinking I'd never have a story worth sharing. But life has a way of throwing curveballs, and I've been carrying this weight for months. I need to get it off my chest. Let me be upfront. I'm not the type to jump to conclusions or assume the worst. My wife, let's call her Kay, and I have been together for 6 years, married for 4. Things seemed solid, at least to me. We had our share of highs and lows, but nothing screamed trouble. Honestly, for most of our relationship, we were that couple, devoted, in sync, like partners in crime. We'd crack silly inside jokes, bicker endlessly over what movie to watch, and had a rhythm that just clicked. She'd plan thoughtful date nights, and I'd surprise her with her favorite takeout after a tough day. It felt natural, like we'd cracked the code to love. So, what happened next hit me like a freight train. About 6 months ago, things started to shift. At first, it was subtle, stuff you'd overlook if you weren't paying close attention. She began keeping her phone glued to her side, even for quick trips to the kitchen or while doing laundry. Before, her phone would sit untouched on the counter for hours, and she didn't care who picked it up. One day, I teased, "What, are you running a covert operation now?" She laughed it off, saying, "Work's been blowing up my inbox." Fair enough. But then, a few days later, she added a password. That threw me off because she'd never bothered with one before. When I casually asked why, she mumbled something about privacy and cyber threats. I didn't push it. I didn't want to seem paranoid, but it felt wrong, and it didn't stop there. She started stepping out of the room to take calls, something she'd never done. Her phone would buzz and she'd say, "Just gotta take this," before slipping into the bedroom or out to the patio. If I asked who it was, she'd brush it off with, "Oh, just a coworker." Then there was this new quirk, placing her phone face down on the table. I didn't even notice it was a thing until I reached for something near her, and she quickly slid her phone away. It was a fleeting moment, but it stuck with me. The distance grew. It wasn't just the phone, though. She felt detached. Our easy conversations turned into chores. When I'd bring up future plans, like where to go for our anniversary or whether we should save for a new car, she'd give a vague, "Yeah, we'll figure it out," and change the topic. It all clicked one day when she said she was meeting a friend for coffee. She did that sometimes, so I didn't think much of it. I happened to be running errands nearby, so I thought, why not swing by and surprise her? It'd be sweet. But when I got there, she wasn't with a friend. She was pacing outside the cafe, phone pressed to her ear. I stayed in my car. Something about her tone seemed intense. I wasn't trying to snoop, but I caught snippets like, "It's almost set," and "New start soon." My heart sank. I couldn't piece it together, but it didn't sound like a work issue or a friend drama. It sounded bigger, like a plan she'd been working on. When she got home, I asked how her coffee date was, keeping my tone light. She spun a whole story about her friend venting about a bad relationship. The lie was so smooth, I just stared at her for a moment. Later, out of nowhere, she brought up consolidating our finances. "We should get all our stuff organized," she said, casual as ever. "You know, bank details, passwords, documents, just in case something happens." I blinked. "What kind of something?" I asked, trying to sound relaxed. She shrugged. "Just, emergencies. What if something happens to one of us, or we need to make a big money move fast?" Her reasoning sounded logical, but the delivery felt rehearsed, like she'd practiced it. It was odd. We'd never talked about this before, and the timing, with everything else I'd noticed, felt suspicious. I nodded, saying, "Yeah, that makes sense," but inside, red flags were waving. Why now? Why the sudden push to organize our money when we'd always kept things separate and casual? That night, I couldn't stop replaying her words, trying to decode them. The phone calls, the cafe conversation, her growing distance, it was adding up, and I didn't like the picture it painted. A few days later, she brought it up again. We were in the kitchen, I was grabbing a snack, and she was scrolling on her phone. "Have you thought about getting our financial stuff in order?" she asked. "Like, do you know where all the account info is?" I set down my plate and turned to her. "Okay, what's going on?" I said, keeping my voice steady but firm. "You keep mentioning the finances. Is there something we need to talk about?" She looked up, caught off guard. No, nothing's wrong, she said quickly, forcing a laugh. I just think it's smart, for emergencies. Emergencies like what? I pressed. She shrugged, her face blank. Just life. It's not a big deal, I swear. Her answers were too slippery, too vague. I let it go, but her dodging only made me more uneasy. It didn't feel like a casual suggestion anymore. It felt like she was hiding something. The next day, while she was at work, I checked our joint account online. What I found threw me: small transfers, nothing huge, but random amounts moved over the past month with no clear purpose. They weren't tied to bills or groceries. I didn't want to overreact, but it looked like she was quietly siphoning money, and I couldn't figure out why. Thought about confronting her, but held back. If I was wrong, I'd look like a fool. If I was right, I needed to be cautious. I reached out to a trusted friend from college who's also a lawyer. I laid out everything, trying not to sound like I was wearing a tinfoil hat. I'm not saying something's definitely up, he said, but you're not crazy for wanting to protect yourself. If you're worried, act now. Better safe than sorry. He walked me through steps to secure my finances, simple moves to safeguard my assets if something went down. It felt extreme, like I was bracing for a storm I wasn't sure was coming. But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. If she was up to something, and I was starting to believe she was, I had to protect myself. It wasn't an easy call. This wasn't just about money. It was about the life we'd built. I kept replaying memories, our wedding, late-night talks about our goals, the dumb little rituals we had. How did we end up here? Was this what our marriage had become? Taking these steps felt like admitting defeat, like I was giving up on the trust we'd shared. That night, while she was out, I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and started digging. My hands shook as I pulled up bank accounts, investments, and the property deed. Every document I reviewed felt like a betrayal, but a voice in my head kept saying this was about survival, not sabotage. I didn't want to hurt her. I just couldn't shake the feeling that I'd regret not acting. I made a list of everything I could move and how to do it discreetly. As I worked, a heavy weight settled in my chest. I'd trusted her completely for years, and now I was playing defense against the person I thought would always have my back. I called my mom, keeping it vague. I need you to hold some things for me for a bit, I said. It's not a big deal, just a precaution. She paused, probably sensing what I wasn't saying. Are you okay? She asked, her voice laced with concern. Yeah, I lied. Just being careful. She didn't push, but I could hear the worry in her silence. Whatever you need, honey, she said. Hanging up felt heavy. I hated dragging her into this, but knowing she was in my corner gave me some stability in the chaos. By the time Kay got home, I'd started the process. I transferred most of my assets, savings, investments, even the house, into my mom's name. I left enough in our joint account to avoid suspicion, but the rest was locked down. She didn't notice a thing. She walked in, gave me a quick kiss, and asked if I wanted to order pizza. I played along, but inside, I was a mess. Part of me felt guilty, like I'd betrayed her, but another part felt relief, like I was finally taking control of a situation that had slipped away. For the next few days, I kept things normal, not letting on that anything had changed.
She seemed content, even oddly cheerful at times, which only made me more suspicious instead of calming me. If she was planning something, she was hiding it well. But one thing stood out. She stopped mentioning the finances. After I'd pushed back the last time, it was like the topic vanished from her mind. At first, I wondered if I'd overreacted, if she'd dropped it because it wasn't a big deal. But the more I thought about it, the more it seemed like she was avoiding it deliberately, like she was scared to bring it up again after I'd questioned her. I caught her glancing at me a few times, like she was gauging my mood or debating whether to say something. Whenever I noticed, she'd quickly look away, focusing on her phone.